In today's video, I'm going to show you how I use my sloper after I've drafted it. This is my favorite part of the entire sewing process, is taking my sloper and modifying it to create the design I want. So why don't we start first with what is a sloper? So a sloper is a basic fitted bodice. It can have like a skirt attached, or it could be a bodice and a skirt, and it fits your body exactly with a little bit of ease in. What they call is wearing ease. So it's not skin tight. And so you create your sloper to your body specifications. And so then every garment that you create off of that sloper will fit you perfectly. So I'm going to go step by step of every single thing that you can consider to change to create the design that you want. So why do you need a sloper? It's the foundation to create any design without having to go out and find a commercial pattern. So once I have my sloper that fits me perfectly, I then think about what design I want to make, and any of those designs can be created using this basic fitting shell or sloper. And if you're new to pattern making and you want to know what the heck is a sloper, check out this video here where I go into detail of exactly what a sloper is and how you can get one.
When I create garments from my own sloper, I don't have sewing instructions like I would when I buy a commercial pattern. So I created this order of construction checklist to follow when making any garment. This is the order that works for me, but you can change it to fit your own sewing style. I've included simple tips for each step. Click the link below to grab your free copy.
Now we have our completed sloper that we start everything with. I'm going to use my dress sloper, which is a combination of the bodice sloper and the skirt sloper. I like to make a lot of dresses, so it's great to have the sloper that includes both. I thought it would be easier to show with this one, so I can show you lengthening it. So anything, if you want to make a jacket or a tunic or a coat or a dress, this is the sloper I would use. I have my sloper on cardstock, which keeps it in much better condition. It's also easier to trace around. We never cut into our sloper. I always trace it onto a piece of paper, and I'm going to transfer all of my markings, such as my darts, all the darts on it. On my sloper, I also have that this says woven dress sloper, which is the front. I always put the date on it. I add in how much ease. In this sloper, I have 1 inch bust ease, 0 inch waist ease, and 2 inch hip ease. You can have as much ease as you're comfortable with. This is just what I like. You can see I've indicated all of my measurements here just because it makes it easy to remember, what those measurements are without having to remeasure. I also added little notes down here that if I want to lengthen this sloper, if I add 16 inches to here, it gets to just right below my knee. And if I add 20 inch, it gets to mid calf. I do this because I'm often using those two measurements, and instead of having to remember, it just is easy to have those notes on here. Also have all my notches on here, which I want to make sure that I put onto my paper as I transfer it over. So let's take away these. And you can see here, I've already transferred everything just to make it really easy. I know where my waist is. This is my hip, which is the widest part of your hip area. All my darts are included. Any notches are in here as well. So this is really the most fun part for me. I love creating a design based off whatever I'm interested in. So maybe I'll have a sketch that I have done that for the design I want to make, or perhaps I just have a photo that I found online that I want to recreate, that garment. I'm going to start up here at the neck. I'm often changing the neckline, because this neckline is just a simple crew neck that's very, very high up. It's basically where a very small necklace would be. So typically I don't want my neckline that high, but it's a really great place to start. So you can always know to lower it. Perhaps you can do anything you want. Perhaps you just want to come down a half an inch there, and maybe you want to come in a half an inch there, and you could just draw a simple lower neckline if that's what you'd want to do. Or perhaps you are thinking about, and you don't even have to measure up here. I could just pick a spot. Like perhaps I want to do a nice boat neck. So I could just go there, just pick a mark there, and maybe I want it just to there, and just draw a line in for there. I'd have a nice boat neck. Or perhaps I would want a V. So I could just say, okay, I want to go down here, let's say 4 inches, and I'm going to go out a half an inch there along the shoulder, and you just draw in your V. So you can see, you can just do any kind of neckline you want, whatever you draw, that's what's going to be the design. Perhaps I want a little bit less low V, but a little further out on the shoulder. I could draw a line there. So you can see whatever you want. It's so much fun to design. You don't even need a sketch. You don't even need a photo. You could just come to your sloper copy here, and you could just start designing this way, which would be sort of a fun thing to do without even having any idea what you want to do. So you decide first what you want to do with the neckline. So I've made a couple choices there. Then I'm just going to go down to the bottom here to see how much we want to lengthen it. If you were doing a jacket, maybe you would just want it to go to your hip. That's possible. You could just leave it here. If you're doing a blouse, maybe you want to shorten it a little bit. It's possible. So if you want to lengthen it, all you would do is come straight down from this line, which is, this is the center front line. Just come straight down. And then over here, again, I would want to, see, I'm lining up here, this line here, because I want to just come straight down. That's where I start. When I want to lengthen, and yeah, I don't have enough paper here, but you recall from, I said, if I wanted to go down to my knee, I would come down 16 inches here. So I don't have 16 inches to go, but I would come down 16 inches and then just square straight across. That's how I would lengthen it. Now, you don't have to just, that would be a pencil skirt, right? If I just came straight down, it would be very straight skirt. You don't need to stop there. So then what you would do with the skirt, if you wanted to make it, you know, maybe a circular skirt or more of an A-line or a flare, something like that. And I would go into another video to talk about this. But what we would do is we could do the slash and spread. So we create, I'm just going to show you really quickly here. We would create two lines there. I'd cut up the lines and I would like spread this out so we could get some flare going. Well, this is the center front. We wouldn't want to flare from there. We'd be flaring. Or you could just, you know, so we would be, eventually it would be flaring out. So that's a whole nother video of how you would create that flare. But, you know, that is something you can do. You have to consider how full you want this skirt. And there's lots of options there. What I like to do a lot is I come down to maybe here and I add a circle skirt at the bottom here. So I might just end it right at the hip. And then I create a big circle for the bottom and then attach it. So many choices. Any kind of design you want down here is what you could do. Or add gathers here, lots of choices. And we talked earlier about the amount of ease we had. I had said, I told you I had 1 inch in both the bust and the waist, and I had 2-inch ease in the hip. That's wearing ease. You can also, if you want this to be very full, you can also get rid of, you can even add more ease here, right? So you might want to come out. If you want it to be a lot fuller, you can just add some more ease. You start here and come straight out. You know, if you want it just like sort of like a tent kind of, you could just come straight down from there if you so chose. You could just, and then it would be nice and full. You'd have extra fullness in the waist. You'd have extra fullness in the hips. So you can definitely add, or another way you can do that without going out this way, you could just not take this dart. So if you just didn't sew that dart, that would naturally add ease. So you have to consider that if you did come out here a little bit more, you would have this amount of ease, and whether you're going to take this dart or not, you might have this amount of ease. And it's times two, right? Because this is on the center front, this is on a fold. So it would be this ease over here plus the ease on the other side. So you have to think about that. And then we have to think about the darts as we're looking at the darts here. So for this sloper, I have a waist dart and I have a side bust dart. This dart I always keep in here. I don't often take it. It is, into the sleeve. I only take it if I'm making a sleeveless garment, because you don't want that gaping if you have a sleeveless garment. But if you put a sleeve in here, you often want a little bit extra ease in there just for movement. So you have to decide if it's a sleeveless garment or not, what you're going to do with this dart. But these darts you can move around, right? Like I have another video that talks about, I'll link it up above, that shows you how you can move darts around. So you can move these darts around. Perhaps I don't want the dart here. I can move it up to here. I can get this dart, I can, take it off the side here, or, put it into here. So there's different things. This one's a little bit more challenging because it's in the middle of the dress. So there's some things you'd have to do there. But, or an interesting thing is you can turn this into a princess seam. So I'll just, this could be the princess seam here. You could just have this going down and then draw it the whole way down here. And then you would cut your pattern open here and cut on this side. And so this dart would just disappear, because this would be the one pattern over here and one pattern over here, and the dart would disappear. So there's lots of different things you can do with darts, either manipulating them around, or you could turn this into perhaps gathers, or you could turn it into a pleat. So you definitely have to think about where you want your darts. You could move this dart to come down here. So many things, so many options. You do not have to keep the darts where they are. And another thing with seams is, besides the princess seam, which really often just incorporates the dart in, you can come up with style lines. I'll post a picture of a dress here that I created some really beautiful style lines. They're not for function, they're really just for style. And some style lines you might have could be, if you want a yoke, you could just draw a style line across here. And then you could have the seam would be here. So maybe this would be black up here, and then below you'd have white. That's potentially what you do. The photo that I'm showing you, I did this really beautiful, like, circular style line. I just drew a circle in here, and then I do an inner circle, and then I had different fabrics. So I just drew them where I wanted on this sloper, and based off of that, I came up with these really great geometric shapes. Now we might want to put in pleats or gathered. We could add this into a pleat or a gather here, but that's not really a lot, right? So if you wanted a lot of pleats or gathers in here, you would have to add some width in it, so then you can gather. So often what you do there is the slash and spread method, in order to give you extra room so that you can gather that in. So it's something to consider, but any place you'd want pleats and gathers, you can add those. And I might want to have a pocket someplace in here. If I did, let's say I want to put a pocket, let's see, right down here perhaps. So you just draw it in, whatever. I'm just going to do a quick little, not measuring. I would measure very carefully, right, if I wanted to put a pocket in here. But let's say I want to put a pocket here. I just draw whatever pocket shape I want. Perhaps I want to have a little bit of a flap there. So if I want a pocket there, I would draw it in. Then of course I would have to trace this on another piece of paper so I can add seam allowances and have it completely separate. But it's really good just to draw it in so you can visually see if you like the pocket there. and decide, or if you need something bigger or if you want to move it over. So you just do it like that. Thinking about closures is very important. So if you want to have zippers in, the back of the dress, or you might have a zipper in the side of the dress, you need to think about that. This is on the fold. Maybe if this was the back, you wouldn't put it on the fold. You might, just have this a seam here, so you can put a zipper, or even the front, you put a zipper in the front. You just need to indicate that you'd want a zipper there, and it wouldn't be on the fold. So let's think about the armholes. There's a lot of things you can also do. I sort of left that towards later because we have to think about sleeves. But with armholes, when you have a sleeveless dress, what I like to do is to bring it up a little bit. Again, just for a little bit more coverage. When you have a sleeve in there, you need a little bit more room down here. But when you don't have a sleeve, it's sometimes good to bring it up a half an inch. So I often will bring it up a half an inch. And anytime, you always want to square off the sides here. So you'd square that off a little bit. So this is a sleeveless, so I would do it a little bit more carefully. I'm just going to draw it quickly. Just draw in your curve, whatever you like. That's probably, I need to come down probably a little bit more. And at this point, then I am going to take this dart because it's sleeveless. So I come up, I get a little bit more coverage here. And then maybe I want to take that dart just so it's not gaping with a sleeveless. But if I don't have a sleeveless and I want to put a sleeve in that, this is important that this armhole matches your sleeve sloper, right? So you might have to have a variety of sleeve slopers. This 10 5/8, well, this is the front. So let's look at this one. This 10-inch, this one is 10 inches. It has to match this 10-inch. If I make any changes here, like if I brought it in and I came around like this, I might have to draft a new sloper for my sleeve because this measurement has to match the measurement on the sleeve. Very, very important. So you might have a variety of sleeve slopers that fit into this. So I think what I would do here is, let's say it's a sleeveless. I think for a sleeveless, often you would want, so here we had the sleeveless line, and then perhaps you want to just bring it up here and have it come in a little bit, which is really a nice look, moving towards like a halter look. If you really wanted it to come in, you would just come in like a real halter. You could come in there. So this, you can come in, you don't just come out this way. You can also, with the shoulder, you can bring it out that way too. So that's things that you can do with the sleeve. So after you've made all the design changes to your sloper copy, you then need to add seam allowances. So you go around the whole way and you decide what seam allowances you want. I typically put a 1/2 inch seam allowance in. And some people do 3/8 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch. Is up to you. So I would go the whole way around and add in a seam allowance. And once you add the seam allowance, you then have a pattern. It turns from a sloper into a pattern once the seam allowances are put in the whole way around. Then I would cut out this new pattern, and you would do what is called truing the pattern. So you want to make sure things are matching up. Let me just use this to make it easy. So things you'd want to check is the this seam matching up. Now there's a dart in here, so I'd have to walk that. I'd have to say this and then push this over to here and just make sure that those two measurements are the same. You want to make sure that your side is the same. So like this is equal to this down here. That's quite important that your side, there's a dart here, but I'd have to measure, making sure that this all, because these are going to sew together, so they have to be the same measurement. You want to make sure things like this, like where it's coming here, that there's not some kind of dip. Same with this underneath here. These two are going to be sewed together. You want to make sure it's a nice smooth line here. Same with the neckline. As this is put together, you want to make sure that you're happy with the way the neckline is. So those are all, that's called truing the pattern, making sure that it all works out that way. And then we're going to add some notes to the pattern. I typically will mark what this is called. It might be A-line, flounce dress, and I would put here, this is the front cut on fold, I would say like cut 1 on fold. I would put the date here. I number all my patterns, so every new pattern I create, I just add to the last one. So maybe I'm at pattern number 44 and the next one would be pattern number 45. I put that number also on the sketch, so it's like I can find the pattern, and I have all my patterns in my closet, but chronologically, so it's easy to find a pattern. But it's quite important that you do that. And then you want to make sure you notch. You're going to put a notch here in your armhole so it matches up with your sleeve. Anything else that you need to mark, any notches, for sewing. If you have a long skirt, you might want to put a notch down here so just to help with your sewing, to match things up when you're sewing. You definitely do a grain line too. Typically you're going to go a grain line that'll be off the center front. So you put a nice grain line in there like that. You have to decide, this is a quite easy placement of a grain line, but sometimes you have to think a little bit more strategically where you want the grain line to be. But any special instructions that you'd want to add, like cut on a fold, or if you're adding pleats, the direction of the pleats, things like that. And once you've made all your adjustments and you're happy with the design, you're ready to start cutting your fabric and sewing out the garment. And if you want to learn more about what the heck is a sloper, check out this video here that goes into detail of what it is and how you can get one. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and let me know what you plan to make in the comments below.